I'm gonna assume we've started. Listen, I don't have to set up. I'm gonna make one video per year. Okay, we're recording, I'm just gonna trust that. We're making an S tier list. We're making a tier list of books that I read in 2022. How many mistakes can I make in one sentence? We're making a tier list. This is very uncomfortable, by the way. I know it's already February. It doesn't matter. I just hope I can remember all of these books, actually. Oh my god. Good thing I'm not one of those people who read like 70 books per year. I wouldn't be able to remember anything. I hope you appreciate this bookshelf background, by the way. My setup is very uncomfortable because of it. I'm like sitting at the edge of my table, literally. Like at the corner. It's not good. My keyboard is all the way over here. Anyway, let's start. These are in no particular order. I tried to, use the order that I read them in, but I didn't actually remember the order completely. So yeah, let's start with No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai. This was the first book that I read in 2022, I'm pretty sure. And it's also what got me back into reading, so it was my gateway, as I always say. I liked it, it was good. I really liked Dazai's writing style, it's very beautiful. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, it was great. From what I understand, this generally has an effect on people that's pretty depressing because of, the heavy themes of the book and all that. It didn't really have that impact on me. There were still, things that were rough to read in it. It did touch me in a way, but overall, the book really didn't have that much of an impact on me. And I do want to reread it because I'm curious if my impression would change. So it was a great book, but I guess I'll put it an A for now. Because it was great, there's nothing to fault here, but it also wasn't, it didn't really do that much for me. So let's carry on with The Setting Sun, I suppose. Which I remember fondly as well. Now do I remember it as fondly? Maybe. Nah, this feels like a B tier book. Because I didn't really take anything from it. Like, I just enjoyed it, but I didn't really take anything from it. So I think I'll put it in C tier for now, I suppose. Right, and then I moved on to Akutagawa. My beloved Akutagawa. I like how the quality of this image got trashed as well. Yeah, this book contains six stories of his, and I really liked it, and this was my introduction to Akutagawa, and I'm so glad that I kept going. This is immaculate, his stories are fantastic. I love this. Straight up. Here. A tier. Absolute A tier. Legend. And I moved straight to this one, Rashomon and 17 Other Stories, which I've talked about a bunch on stream. And this has, I guess, 17 or 18 other stories by him. And this book is just beautiful. It has an introduction, I believe, by Murakami, and the translator, I think, has something to say about this book as well, and it gives you this great introduction to who Akutagawa even is to begin with. So you're kind of equipped a little bit with that knowledge for when you actually start reading the book. It's divided into these, I think, 4 sections, and some of them are less personal and some of them are more personal to the author himself. But in any case, the stories themselves are really well selected, and I do remember some of them still really quite vividly and fondly. And I absolutely loved reading this book, I remember that. It was like something that I really treasured, every page of. And this was straight up S tier, indeed. This is a 5 out of 5 book, no questions asked, yeah. That's the expression, yeah. A lot of good books. Honestly, I don't even know. We're probably not going to need all of these categories, to be honest. We've got Crime and Punishment, which I've talked about a lot on stream, and this is my favorite book. This is not a secret. This is my favorite author and my favorite book. Actually, when I read the books by Akutagawa that I just talked about, he was briefly the author where I was like, oh my god, this is my favorite author. I love him, you know, so great and all that. And then shortly after that, I started reading Crime and Punishment, and afterwards, Dostoevsky became my favorite author. But I didn't really want to admit that to myself for a while. It's just kind of like, oh, like, man, I'm cheating on Akutagawa with Dostoevsky. But yeah, he's undoubtedly my favorite author. That's not a question. And Crime and Punishment is my favorite book currently. It had a huge impact on me. I still think about it a lot. I took a lot away from it just with the way that, you know, I could personally relate to the protagonist and the different themes that Dostoevsky tackles in this book. Fantastic. And not to mention the atmosphere, mind you. This book is an experience, honestly. It really is. And to be honest, with the impact it had on me, it kind of deserves its own category. It would actually be up here, you know, on the throne alone. But I'll put it in S tier. These two books are the only two that I rated 5 out of 5 on Goodreads. And deservedly so, you know, they are great books. I feel like I don't even really have anything to say about these anymore. If you want to hear me talking more in depth about these books, I do have this other video that you've probably seen though if you're even watching this to begin with, where I talk about most of these books except for the last 3 I think that I that are going to be on this list. But I talk more in depth about the books there. I honestly don't really want to get into it here because I'm just writing them and I don't really care to get into them too much now. So Schoolgirl by Dazai again was really great and I really loved it and I still remember it quite vividly. Very short book, very good, and to be honest I'm pretty sure I liked it more than No Longer Human. So I'm wondering if I'll actually end up placing No Longer Human here in the B category, but we'll see, we'll see. Continuing on with Notes from Underground by Dostoevsky again. Wait, I did get all the books that I read by him, right? Notes from Underground, Crime and Punishment. The Idiot. And this one I read in 2023, and then I'm reading another one now. Yes, okay. I just had to check. Notes from Underground. I read this in Portugal with, well, not with Taco, but at Taco's place. Nervely, that is. This is a great book, and honestly, the impact it had on me was greater than the enjoyment I had while reading it. I really did enjoy it a lot, but while reading it, I didn't feel like it was doing that much for me. It was, you know, it was good, but that was it. You know what I mean? But I found myself thinking about messages and themes that I took from this book months afterward, and even now, honestly, some of these themes have stuck with me a lot. I'm continuously surprised by it. Because again, while reading it, I just didn't feel like that was the case. But I suppose the impact it had was greater than my enjoyment of it. Enjoyment isn't even really the right word to use, to be honest, because I did enjoy it a lot. It was just that I didn't feel like it was, you know, getting to me that much, I suppose, on a deeper level, but it did. And honestly, yeah, put it here. That's an A tier book. Is it an A tier book? Or is it a B tier book? Let's put it in B. The Humans. So this is a book that my friend lent me. I took nothing away from this. I did not like this book. It wasn't even very enjoyable to read. To be honest, it felt very... I'm thinking about words that are, you know, inadequate to describe it. I think I was not the target audience for this book. He brushed over some topics that I think are interesting, but, you know, he brushed, and that might even be an overstatement. You know, he never answered any of the questions, and I didn't really care about any of the characters. I didn't really care about the story. Again, he didn't go into the themes and the subjects in depth. I didn't really appreciate it. And I remember the writing style just not being it for me, especially with regard to the humor. I guess it's a hit or miss, but the humor felt very forced to me, like it was trying too hard to be funny, and that made it very unfunny. So I did not enjoy this book. I didn't gain anything from it, and because of that, I would almost say that it was a waste of time. So yeah, this is an F tier book. This is, yeah. This is the kind of book where you read it and then you're like, oh, I'm never gonna read this author again, you know? Just not for me. Just not for me. Carrying on with Kafka on the Shore in C tier. Absolutely C tier. I forgot a book. I knew it! Hang on. I'll get it. Okay, I got it. Norwegian Wood. Good thing I remembered that, because I read that in 2022 as well. So, Kafka on the Shore, solid is an overstatement. C tier. I didn't really like it. The surrealism was not something I enjoyed, and I really think that Murakami's books live off of the atmosphere that he creates, and I gotta say, I mean, he builds the atmosphere. He knows how to do that, and it's this very unique sort of atmosphere, and I feel that it's very unique to him, to Murakami. And, you know, I can respect that. But that alone is not enough for me. Honestly, the story, it was just a story with an atmosphere to me, and I didn't like the main character. In fact, I quite disliked him, and that's not a bad thing. But the reason I disliked him wasn't because, you know, he was a bad person, but because I felt like the author or the characters around him were letting him get away with things that he shouldn't have gotten away with. I wasn't into it. Totally mid. Which, by the way, was kind of frustrating because I had heard so much about Murakami and I thought for sure I was gonna like him, but here I was, you know, not really enjoying this. In any case, I guess I should do not Six of Crows, sorry, Norwegian Wood right after. I didn't even finish not Six of Crows. What the hell? I didn't even finish Norwegian Wood. I got halfway through it and then I stopped because this book made me so angry. I did not like this. I hated the story. I hated the characters. I could not connect to the emotional themes here because also of how unrealistic sometimes the dialogues and so on seemed. And then there's these really inappropriate sexual themes here, and I don't mind sexual themes in and of themselves at all. I don't have a problem with that, but here they were not, you know, they were very unfitting. They were just kind of thrown in there for the sake of it, but they were unnecessary, and they really made the whole experience a whole lot worse because they weren't enjoyable. They were just bad and honestly a little cringe-inducing. And I did not like this. I did not like this in the slightest. I hated this. There were so many moments where I was reading this where I was just like, you know, I can't believe this. I can't believe this, Murakami. What is this? What are you doing? At around halfway, at the halfway point, I decided to drop it, which I normally don't even do because I like to finish things. But I couldn't. I hated it so much. And then I skimmed through the last half to sort of see what happens, and you know, I concluded that I had made the right decision because I didn't feel like I had missed anything at all, and there were more weird scenes and all that. So unfortunately, I had placed my hopes on Norwegian Wood. I really thought I was gonna like it better than Kafka on the Shore, but in fact the opposite is true. And this lands it straight in D tier. And the only reason why it's in D tier and not in F tier with the humans is because, again, despite everything, Murakami manages to conjure up this atmosphere. And the atmosphere is palpable, you know, you can feel it basically from the first page. It's Murakami's own, it's very unique to him. And it is there, and I do find that respectable. That's great, I do like that. But that's about the only interesting thing about this book, or his books, honestly, in my opinion. I really kind of want to read one of his non-fiction books where he just talks about himself, because I actually like him, and I am still curious about him as an author. It just seems like I don't like his stories. So yeah, D tier for Norwegian Wood. Sorry. So then we're moving on to something much more enjoyable. This was The Idiot by Dostoevsky. And this took me 3 months to read because of the way it was written. Not the writing style, but the pacing. The pacing is very unusual. And I mean, to be fair, his stories are just often not something you can just, you know, breeze through. You have to sort of digest it, you have to think about what you read and all that. And I like to do that. I like to give it the time and attention it deserves, you know. So it took me a long time to read this. But it was well worth it, and the world and the characters are still fresh in my mind. I still remember them vividly. I really enjoyed this. This didn't impact me as much as the other two works, Crime and Punishment and Notes from Underground, but I did really enjoy reading it. And there were a lot of little things in it that I really appreciated, like, you know, monologues or topics or subjects or anything, you know. Ideas, I suppose. I feel like this list is a little off, to be honest with you. Yeah, now I'll leave it like this. It's fine, it's fine. The Stranger! Yes! Everybody loves The Stranger, except for me. I didn't like this. I thought I would like this because it's a philosophical book. It's about... well, is it existentialism? I'm not really sure. It's something like it, and I really thought I would like it. But I just didn't. I didn't care about any of the characters, and I didn't connect to the main character either, which apparently quite a few people did, from what I can tell online. But, you know, I guess it just didn't do it for me. My main problem with this was that it has interesting ideas in it that I personally do enjoy, but he didn't go into detail enough for me. Like, he didn't answer the questions, he just sort of posed them. And I think the idea was to get the reader to think about these questions in the first place. But because I already like to read books like this anyway, and I like to think about this stuff anyway, it almost fell a little bit flat, I want to say. So yeah, it didn't really do anything for me. You know, it's like asking me a question and then not giving me your opinion on it. And it's a question that's, you know, it's not new to me, so to speak. I know this sounds so arrogant, I suppose. It really is something that I do think about. Here he asks the question specifically, what would a person be like if they didn't adhere to our societal morals at all? And where do morals even come from, and so on and so forth. This is not the first time that I've encountered this type of question, and because of that, and because he didn't really answer it, or I should say, he didn't really explore it as much as I would have liked, and because of that, the book didn't really do anything for me. And because of that, I would also put this in D tier. Again, D tier only because it has ideas that I appreciate, but, you know, didn't go into it enough for me. And last but not least, Six of Crows. Six of Crows, I mean, I really liked Six of Crows. It was great, and I hadn't read a novel like this in a long time, and it was really good to see that I could still get into a fantasy novel. Really great, because I used to love fantasy novels and I used to read them all the time. So this was a really solid one. I really enjoyed it, and I do still have the sequel actually on my bookshelf. I'm gonna read that eventually when it calls my name. And I would also place this either here or here. Nah, I did really enjoy it. It was an A-tier book, let's be real here. So let's see, the only one I'm kind of... let me check, A-tier, No Longer Human. Yeah, the only one I'm kind of contending is like, No Longer Human could also be in B-tier, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. Anyway, this is my tier list. These are all the books that I read in 2022. We'll see if I make another one like this at the end of 2023. Who knows? Thanks for watching. Bye.